I think that this fertility crisis is interesting to watch demographers, tie themselves up in knots trying to figure out why Israel is the one outlier in the entire world. And I'm like, I can tell you why. They have a tool that causes their families to be durably multi-generational, generation after generation. And there are so many countries right now that are experimenting with tax incentives. They don't realize that when people think like individuals, they're going to have fewer, smaller families. What
Mhm.
really excites everyone in the family, and we've seen this with our kids, everybody's excited to bring children into a multi generational family, and everybody in a multi generational family celebrates that generation so much. It's such a gift to every single person that it's such a high value because you're something different. You are all together building this family and you want to see it grow and multiply. And so everybody's contributing to that and excited about that at the same level. You can't even imagine the joy of bringing that first generation. We were sitting at our Shabbat table after practicing this for 20 years with the three generations. We brought the first member of the fourth generation,
Mhm.
into that table. Like that meal was so epic. It was like to know that our family is going to continue another generation through, this grandson of ours, or the great grandson of my parents and April's mom. And now as more and more of that generation begins to grow, everyone is excited. And so it's just like, if you think about, the pinnacle, I mentioned sports, if you what you keep track of, what your score is and like what game are we playing? And I think the thing that people are so confused about is that when this becomes the pinnacle of your week, that experience of that multi-generational meal, everyone's like the zenith of everyone's week is that meal at that table, being able to experience that level of family. Then of course the thing that really grows and magnifies that is more children, right? Getting to see more of those kids coming together. And like you said, April, it's the ripple effects from there. It actually creates a completely different kind of culture, a different kind of family. So it doesn't just affect our Friday nights. It affects how we think about church. It affects how we think about work. It affects how we think about living. It affects everything, our vacations, our whole arc of life is affected by this perspective, this lens that we're given and we kind of put back on every single week. And as you begin to experience and see life through the lens of a multi-generational family, how incredibly healthy that is for children, how incredibly healthy that is for women who are mothers. This is another part of it that you guys constantly hear us champion is that the culture today tells us the opposite of what's true about what's best for mothers and for children. We think more individualism, more giving into your individual preferences, less multi-generational family. All of these things women and children need to be liberated from. The problem with that is women and children are very, very vulnerable. They're particularly women who are having lots and lots of kids. Those are the most vulnerable members of our entire society. And so what you want to do if you really want to bless women and mothers and children is you need them to exist inside of an ecosystem that is multi-generational. That is by far the best thing for mothers and children because during those vulnerable seasons everyone is trying to help them. Everyone sees them. Everyone loves them. They are champions of the family. They're the heroes of the family. They're giving birth to the next generation. They're raising that generation. And that's what we are all so much prizing and celebrating together as a family, what that means for all of us as a family. And so for men to be doing everything they can to provide and protect that so that we all get to experience that because as men, we as fathers are like, that's what we want as well. Man, that God designed family so well to protect the most vulnerable. And we are giving the opposite prescriptions. It is not surprising that we have an epidemic of women in particular in our culture who are going childless and who are struggling with anxiety, depression, and meaning in ways that we've never seen before. And that children are constantly struggling in the way that we're creating culture, either being neglected or murdered in the womb or not existing because we don't value having children. And so the next generation is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so these pathways lead to death. And this is what God kind of laid out before the Jewish people in the Torah. It's like, do these things, so you don't die. Like
Right.
these things lead to life. And
Mhm.
so I'm just so grateful that we have a very practical thing. When we're talking about very epic theological, philosophical things, when we talk about like, what is the family and how did God create kind of culture? But it all kind of boils down to, if you needed to reduce it to something that's really, really practical, to this one simple practice. Really good at crafting that multi generational meal, those three generations sitting around one table every week. That is going to create these enormous ripple effects.